Okay, our next hymn is number 318, We Would Be One. And this song has, well, the melody is very famous for many reasons. It's the national anthem of Finland. I believe it was also the national anthem music for Biafra. There's also a UUA connection. This song was very much connected with the Unitarian youth and the Universalist youth way back before the UUA came together. And the youth really were instrumental in bringing the two different faith traditions together. They said that the youth were together 10 years before the adults got it together. So they helped a lot in bringing about the UUA. Okay, and Barry will play the melody, and then we will sing along, and that will be number 318. So you'll play it once, and then we'll sing. this morning, I'm very pleased that Johhny Martin will be speaking with us. I first met Johhny at a gathering of the Phoenix Restoration Project volunteers. And we started to talk about interfaith work, and that's both a strong connection for us. Okay, and the Phoenix Restoration Project, for those of you who don't know, it's a group of volunteers that help in the many immigration issues. People here at the church are volunteer at the Greyhound station sometimes, and we also have pen pals. Anyway, so Johhny, we met at this gathering, and he is part of a project, an organization called Sun Devils Are Better Together. And I'm going to let him speak about that. But our topic this month is service, and this group does some wonderful things. So, Johhny?
Hello, everyone. I'm really glad to be with you this morning. This is actually my first time at a Unitarian Universalist church, and I am already just blown away by the spirit and the energy in this room and just the feeling of unity. It's honestly like something I've sort of craved for my whole life. Really, it's the reason I got involved with interfaith work, is to see a community like this of people who are accepting and encouraging for people on diverse spiritual paths, in different points in their life. So I'm really, really excited to be here. Again, my name is Johhny Martin. I'm a senior at Arizona State University studying religion, public life, and conflict. And I'm also the president and founder of Sun Devils Are Better Together, which is an organization we started last year to really fill a need that we saw at our school, being that ASU is the largest public institution in the nation, the #1 largest school. We also have some incredible diversity on our campuses. We have actually 4 campuses, if you didn't know, in the Phoenix Valley, and the Tempe campus is the largest campus of any university anywhere in the United States. And we have thousands of Christians and Muslims and Jews and Hindus and Buddhists and Sikhs and atheists and agnostics and those who don't know which box to check. So ultimately, it's a place where you are really, if you're going to be successful, you're forced to engage with others across lines of difference. You're forced to interact with people with whom you won't necessarily agree on certain things that may be fundamental to who you are and to your values and your beliefs. So what are we to do with this? What are we to do with this when me and my 3 friends in the back, we go to this school, and every day we are interacting with people in our classes, in our extracurricular activities, and our student worker jobs, people we disagree with. Ultimately, this is something that I quickly realized in my life that I was going to be doing as long as I'm a human being. It's part of who we are. It's part of being a human being, is that you have to be able to negotiate relationships with people who are very different from you all the time. So I want to talk a little bit specifically about our organization, Sun Devils Are Better Together, who we are, why we started the organization, and the larger network, the larger movement that we're part of throughout the United States, which is coordinated by the National Interfaith Youth Corps, where I also work as a Better Together coach. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about my own spiritual faith journey, kind of weave that in a little bit. And then, of course, I'm going to talk about the importance of service in what we're doing. That's really the thing that binds it all together. And I'm going to talk specifically about what SunDAPT, as we call it, Sun Devils Are Better Together, what we are doing to focus on the immigration crisis that's happening in our state. So to start with, Sun Devils Are Better Together. It's an organization that I and a handful of other students started last year. And again, we saw a need in our community at ASU. When you have this ingrained diversity already there, it's already part of the school. We have vibrant, active faith communities from all different traditions where they have their own student ministries, their own organizations, they hold their own events, they're very active. But what we saw was that they're operating in isolation from each other a lot of times. You have at least 5 or 6 active Protestant Christian groups alone at the Tempe campus. and they're all doing different things, which is great. I mean, it provides Christian students a lot of options between, what they want to get involved in. Maybe these groups aren't all identical. They're focused on, different certain things, and this is fine. This is good. We have the Catholic Newman Center. We have the LDSSA, Latter-day Saints Student Association. We have the Muslim Students Association. We have Students for Humanity, inspired by Ahlul Bayt, which is the Shia Muslim organizations, completely separate from most of the regular Muslim student organizations, and a handful of others. I mean, really, from every tradition around the world that you could imagine, they have an organization, they have a group, and they're active. So what did we start to see was the problem? For one thing, ASU calls itself the New American University. And that's something we're very proud of. And it's something that we do to make ourselves distinct from other schools like, for example, Harvard or Princeton or Yale. Now, why would I bring those schools up and compare them to ASU ever? Did you know on a regular basis, I find myself telling people that ASU is a better school? Yeah, I believe as a Sun Devil that my school is better than the Ivy League schools. Now, why do I believe this? Most people would say, this is ridiculous, this is crazy. If you go to any of the U.S. News and World Report rankings, Harvard, Princeton, Yale, they're at the top. ASU, we're in the top 100 regularly, so, I mean, that's good, right? And if you don't know, we're actually regularly, within the past 5 years, we've been in the top 5 for up-and-coming schools, so that's good. But how could I say that we're, in fact, better than the Ivy League schools? I would say it for one reason, and it's a reason I learned from President Michael Crow at the university, and it's something that he says that I've sort of picked up on and started repeating. Those schools make up who they are based on who they exclude. ASU makes up who we are based on who we include. ASU is a radically inclusive university, and it has an extremely high acceptance rate. Some people say, well, that's not good. You're going to get a lot of students who maybe shouldn't be there, who aren't hardworking enough, who aren't going to spend their time the right way. The school makes money doing that. I mean, if you want to give me an economic if I can give you the financial business reason, it's a huge school, and now we have all this money to invest in making it better with, the facilities and the research and what's provided for the students who are there, who are going to take advantage of these opportunities. And those are students like me and the students I came with. But so if we have these vibrant, active faith communities, but they're operating in isolation from each other. And if we're really the New American University, and we're showing a model to the world of what cooperation between people of differences should look like, then the Muslim Students Association and the LDSSA and all these Protestant Christian groups and the Catholic Newman Center and the Buddhists for Peace, they should be working together, or they should at least have relationships with each other where it's not like, well, you're different from me, I'm different from you. Yeah, we're all Sun Devils, so we have that in common. But what about the shared values? It's not like just because you're Buddhist and I'm a different tradition, that means that we don't agree that empathy is important, or kindness, or compassion, or forgiveness, or respect, or self-reflection. All these important values that really define who we are and how we relate to each other and the goodness that we see in our world. Those are shared values. So why would we ignore this and let ourselves be separated by doctrine and dogma and things that really don't do a disservice to us in our humanity, that we focus on letting the things that separate us be more powerful than the things that bring us together, when it should be the opposite. We should be focusing on the things that bring us together. And so, for one thing, the students like us who started the Interfaith group, we thought it was important for having these communities cooperate with each other, yes. But also we started noticing, well, they're all very active in service projects, like they all do activities and events where they're focused on fundraising for, communities that have serious needs, local communities, maybe the homeless, maybe the migrants. But then we also notice that there's overlap. And of course we know that if one group is working on something and another group is working on the same thing or serving the same community, they would be making more of an impact doing it together, right? Sharing resources, sharing information, and cooperating with each other. And yet these groups weren't doing that for two reasons. One is because it wasn't a norm at ASU for interfaith to be a thing. It wasn't normal for people to reach across lines of difference to actually work towards those common goals, but they don't even know that there's overlap. Our school we have 80,000 students at ASU, the Tempe campus. 80,000 students. So even if, there are some people in the Buddhists for Peace, for example, who are doing a service project that's serving the same community that the LDSSA is serving, but none of these students are to blame for not doing it together because they don't even know that they're all doing the same thing because the school is so large and those students don't already have relationships with each other. They're part of different communities. So that's the need that we saw, and then we said we should start an organization that's interfaith. I thought, why is this not already a thing? Honestly, that was my first thought, is why is this not already part of ASU, part of the largest school? But so we decided to start the organization, and we actually formed it as part of the National Interfaith Youth Corps, which is based in Chicago, Illinois, and they coordinate the Better Together campaigns at universities and colleges across the nation. And the movement is growing rapidly. We've actually gone from 300 schools to 400 schools in the last 12 months. So it's rapidly growing, and it's basically a movement to do three things: get students to voice, engage, and act. So voice, that means expressing your values and beliefs comfortably in a safe space and engaging with others across lines of difference. Those first two parts are important because honestly, we could bring people of diversity together and then not talk about our differences. Wouldn't that be easier? Wouldn't that be better to just avoid the whole problem of having fundamental disagreements? But no, because then we're not truly understanding each other. I don't know who you are if I can't ask you about your faith and your background and your culture and your values. We need to be able to engage on that level. Okay, so voice and engage, but then what? It's not enough if we all come together, even if we're doing it regularly, even if it's happy and I'm learning about you and you're learning about me, and even though we're different, we feel better together. Kumbaya, it's great. But let's do something. Especially because we're going to start recognizing once we build these relationships across lines of difference that we both care about feeding the hungry and serving people who are in need, who are suffering in our communities, that we have the privilege and the ability to help with what we've been given, what God has given to us. So we should do something about it, and that's exactly what doing interfaith work leads to. You voice, you engage. Ultimately, you move past the fundamental disagreements because those are always going to be there. They transcend us as individuals. If I'm Muslim and you're Jewish, I'm not going to convince you that I'm right. You're not going to convince me that you're right. What are we going to do with this? Are we going to be enemies for the rest of our lives because of tradition of thousands of years that we can't even fully make sense of as an individual human? Or are we going to say, I disagree with you, and I'm maybe not going to change what I believe, but I want to know who you are. I want to be friends with you. I want to have a relationship so that if we agree that even though we disagree on maybe who God is, we agree on who God would help. What communities are here on earth around us that we have the ability to make an impact on. And so that's what our organization is all about. And we spent our first year, we didn't really do a lot of service. That was kind of a problem for us, but it was because it took a while for us to all come to an agreement on what interfaith even really is and what it should mean. Had to agree on things like, this isn't a space for proselytizing. This isn't a space where you should be trying to convert other people to your worldview, to your way of life. This isn't a space for debate. We can have a dialogue, we can have a discussion on things that make us different, but what's going to be good if we just start trying to prove to each other and arguing with each other about things we know isn't going to change? That doesn't make us better together. So it took a while, and the reason we didn't really get around to doing much service our first year is because we had to figure out the structure and the leadership of the organization and how is it going to be sustainable when students are graduating, every 4 or 5 years. So, but this year we sort of found our purpose, and it was something that once the idea came to the group, we all very much felt that this was why we did this. This was why we came together. A lot of you, I'm sure, know what you've seen in the news recently, hopefully. Honestly, it doesn't get enough coverage in the media, and I'm concerned about that, but there are thousands and thousands of unaccompanied minors crossing the border, coming up from Central and South America, primarily from Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala. and they're fleeing unlivable conditions in their home countries. They're not immigrants. They're not illegals. They're refugees. They can't stay in their home countries because of violence, because of the gangs and the drugs, the constant threat of death every day. And people say, well, how could their parents be sending them? How could they be coming unaccompanied? And to me, I'm thinking, isn't that the proof that they're not just, that they're coming here because they have to? They have no other choice. That's what I believe. And honestly, but this is the key thing. There are students in Some Devils Are Better Together who disagree with me about this politically. There are a few who disagree with me politically. But at the end of the day, what we realize is even me and those other students who may disagree with me politically, we agree that these kids are here. They're here now. There are thousands of them who've crossed the border who are in facilities in our state, basically being kept in horrible conditions, practically imprisoned, more or less, while our government and the process tries to work itself out and figure out how quickly they can deport them back to the countries they've fled from. So what our group has decided to do is to launch a massive awareness campaign, because this isn't something that is being made aware of as much as it should be. Fundraise and collect donations of food, clothing, hygiene supplies, school supplies, toys, bedding, anything we can get for these kids to help them. And then hopefully our original idea, our original plan was to send students to visit and stay with the kids for extended periods of time, because a lot of us immediately kind of jumped at that as saying, well, let's go to them and let's befriend them. These kids are alone, they're afraid, they're separated from their families, and they have serious needs. And we've heard that now that we've been getting connected to community groups that are already working towards this, that there's constantly depression, and that honestly a lot of these kids deal with suicide while they're in these facilities, while they're waiting for hope, what they've come here for and what they're not finding. And so we are finding that the government, of course, is not keen on the idea of a group of college students going to visit these kids because it looks like someone's trying to help them. So we're trying to find a workaround, and there's facilities in New Mexico where the regulations are looser and visitors have been able to go and see and stay with the kids for a while. So we may be taking a road trip to New Mexico if that's a possibility, just because our real goal is to do this because it is a shared value. Even the people who disagree with me politically about what I think should happen to these kids and what I think our government should do with them, at the end of the day, we all have the privileges that we can afford to use to help those who don't have what we have. And so that's really that's what's made us feel truly better together. Because at the beginning when we were doing this, it's beautiful when you see a room and you know that there are Muslims and Jews and Christians and atheists in the same room for the same purpose of building relationships with each other. To me, that's the most inspiring thing I've ever heard of. And honestly, I don't know how much time I have. I don't know when you can just cut me off or give me the signal. But I was going to get into my own spiritual faith journey a little bit. I don't think I have enough time to fully do it because honestly, it's a long story and I get very passionate about it and I can kind of go off in a lot of different tangents. But really the point that I want to make in being here is that we live in a world where tension between people of different religious backgrounds and different beliefs is higher than ever. And we're seeing violence in our world that unlike ever before, just outrageous violence. And regardless of why the violence is happening, whether you think it's religious, political, or economic, whatever reasons you think is there, people are saying it's because of religion. People are saying this is happening because if you're a Muslim and you're a Jew and you're a Christian, we can never coexist. We can't live on this earth together. And to me, that's outrageous because I came here, I'm a Muslim, and I came here with a Jew and with a Unitarian Universalist and with an agnostic seeker / Buddhist Catholic type thing. Sometimes it doesn't, you don't fit exactly into one specific. Personally, I don't. I consider myself a pluralist Muslim. I think that I'm Muslim, Christian, Hindu, and Buddhist. I don't say that as often to people because people just look at you like you're crazy and it doesn't really work out so well. But yeah, that's honestly why I'm just blown away. I'm going to start coming to UU churches because this is the most amazing thing I've ever heard. And honestly, first time I heard about Unitarian Universalism, I was actually at an Interfaith Leadership Institute conference, which started my journey as an interfaith activist. It's what led us to create Sun Devils Are Better Together. And he told me he was Unitarian Universalist. And I was like, what is that? Tell me about that. I've never heard of that before. And he told me about the 7 principles upon which what you all do, your community, is founded on. And I remember finding it really interesting because I never knew something like that was even out there. I mean, I was raised in going to a church with a very specific set of beliefs, and anything that was outside of those beliefs was unacceptable. But to the point where it was vilified and demonized, and it made me afraid of something that I didn't understand. Until later in my life when I actually met people who were those things that I was told were worshiping the devil or all these other things. And I realized, no, this person worships the same God that I do. So I'm not going to let the world tell me that because we're different religions and different traditions that we can't be better together. Because I'm proof that we can be better together. The relationships that I have with other students at ASU, what we're doing, our group, is the proof of what the world should look like. And this room, this church, is proof of what the world should look like. What you all believe, what's written on the wall here, this should be humanity. This should be what everyone believes. I mean, when I first heard, and he told me what Unitarian Universalism is, I looked it up, I went to the website, read those principles, I posted it on my Facebook page instantly, right away. And I just said, read these 7 principles. This is called Unitarian Universalism. If you agree with these 7 principles, guess what? You're a Unitarian Universalist. I'm a Unitarian Universalist, and I've never been to the church until today. So, thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, Johhny. That was wonderful. Okay, we'll continue now. Let's see, where are we? Let's sing a hymn. Hey, another change. Please stand as you are willing and able, and we are going to sing out of the Teal hymnal, number 1064, Blue Boat Home. Okay, before we close, I'd like to thank those who served in our worship service this morning. Joe Cleland and Barry Linden for the wonderful music. Our greeters, foster family, Joel, Fanny, and Dylan. And Kenna for our wonderful chalice lighting. And for Johhny Martin, who spoke with us this morning. Okay, we'll extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we're together again. Okay, we will now close with our postlude, Finlandia. Oh, mission statement. Sorry. Can't leave without saying our mission statement. To provide a safe place to celebrate diversity, draw inspiration for living better lives, foster social and environmental justice, and compassionately support each other in our spiritual service.
Really just washing dishes.